Hi, this is Rich Ventura, Vice President of Business Development at NEC Display Solutions. I want to welcome you to our webinar or Google Hangout for this month, talking about LEDs. On this panel today, we've got Randy Pagnan, President of RP Visual, Jeff Metzger, Vice President at Triangle Signs, and Grant Wylie, Product Manager for LED for NEC Display Solutions. Throughout this conversation, we're going to talk about everything from how LEDs are being used, why LEDs are being used, the differences in the LED technologies, as well as mounting solutions and learning things that we found from installations. With that, I'm actually going to start off by handing it off to Randy and have him talk a bit about RPV.
Thank you very much, Rich. Appreciate it. RP Visual Solutions, we're a custom mount manufacturer, more than a mount experience, solving for curved, tilted, large, architecturally integrated, be it flat panel or today we're talking about direct view LED. We're based in Anaheim, California, with fabrication in Compton. Been around since 2005 and mounted now close to 50,000 square feet, 5,000 square meters of direct view LED. In the last couple of years, ever since it went sub 4 millimeter, our business exploded with mounting of that. Next slide. As I said, we're based in Anaheim. UHD, I define that as sub 4 millimeter direct view LED. And what we're finding is that with direct view LEDs, it's expanding the palette for architects, integrators, contractors, content creators, that they can be more creative and hence they can embed it into the fabric of the building, be it on the ceiling, embed it behind panels, what have you. And up on the screen you'll see our office here in Anaheim and our fabrication facility, which is 27,000 square feet. I'd also like to point out that picture that you see on the far right. That's actually when we got a very large project at Southern California Edison. We were actually validating and measuring the tolerances on the cabinetry of the direct view LED panels. Just as a high-level statement, that particular project was 1.5 millimeter dot pitch, and what we have to solve for is we have to deliver a seam, usually about 10% of that. So the aperture, the gap between the panels, is about 10%. So in that case, 0.15 millimeters. And then compounding that, obviously, is if you actually introduce a curve, which in this case is actually curved as well. Next slide, Rich. So top left is Microsoft in New York. We built the infrastructure there, direct view LED, outdoor facing 2.5 mil, front, rear serviceable with the catwalk system that you see there. Then if you need to ever get behind a wall, there's a couple different ways you can get there. So you see motorized mounts. We take and we unitize the structure and then put it on what we refer to as an X-arm, be it manually extended or in that case you see in the drawing there a linear motion service system. Bottom left is Dolby Labs, and as I said, you know, architecturally integrated. That's really expensive granite slabs, both above and below a 45-foot long digital zipper to the left and a 25 digital zipper to the right, mating in the corner to about a 1/4 inch, which is a tighter seam than what the actual granite slabs are delivering. And the image there is 4.5 feet tall. And bottom right, digital signage, that's a job we did at LAX, the Terminal 5. And what you'll see with us all the time, we're always showing shims. And those different colored shims allow us to measure and confirm the tolerance of the spacing and between the different tiles. Next slide. We recently, thanks to HB Communications, we're doing the job at Westgate, Las Vegas. To our knowledge, it's the highest resolution indoor LED video wall. It was completed last September for football season. A couple of the project particulars, it's 2.5 millimeter pixel pitch, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. It's 1,680 tiles. It's 20 feet tall, 220 feet wide. It's 61,931,520 pixels, and the overall weight of the structure combined with the LED was 65,000 pounds. And you can see from the one picture, it's actually a flat portion for about 2/3 of the wall, and then it curves a radius like a J. So delivering a 0.25 millimeter seam with that is tricky. And I think the last slide for me, Rich. We design and fabricate projects for large, USC Annenberg Hall, 2.5 mil, Southern Cal. Tilted, that is actually Microsoft in Sydney, Australia, and those are outdoor-facing LED walls both on the left of the picture and the right, and they solve for being retracted so you can clean the windows. And then curved, bottom left, and process control room, Southern California Edison, 1.5 millimeter dot pitch. And I always like this bottom right picture, which is a pretty cool job we did at City Center in DC. And that's an emergency breakaway door for fire egress embedded in an outdoor-facing direct view LED, such that if there's a fire, you actually walk through our door to get outside. So I believe that's it for my slides. So I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Metzger.
Thank you, Randy. Hi, I'm Jeff Metzger with Triangle Sign. We're based in Baltimore, Maryland, and we're a little bit different from Randy's company. We're a traditional static sign company that's been around since 1931, so it makes us a little over 85 years old. As you can see here, here's a spot from our website over on the left. I guess that's my left. That is the New Balance sign at the Boston Fenway field. So next slide, please. So we're a turnkey solution provider. We do everything you can imagine for static signage on the outside. We have cranes. We have our own trucks that we do installations ourselves within about 100 miles of Baltimore, so all over Philadelphia, DC, that area. And then nationwide, we use a sub-model to get projects installed for just about everybody you can imagine in the retail environment. Locally, we do more churches, schools, different small businesses in the Baltimore area, and we work with a little bit of everything from aluminum, plastic. We have our own paint booth. Rich, if you can go to the next slide, I'll show a little bit more about our factory. But we have CNC routers. The paint booth down on the bottom right, we actually can fit a semi-trailer in there. You can see our crane and work there on the Pepsi sign. We are roughly 65,000 square feet of manufacturing and about 130 employees. And as I said, we've been around for quite a few years. I think the major difference I've seen, I was in the digital signage industry myself for many, many years. Since about 2003, and coming over to the static signage and doing stuff on the outside, the difference in permits, zoning, things I never had to deal with on the inside are very different. It's a very different animal, along with a very different buyer. People I dealt with in digital signage would be marketing and IT. In the case of signage, when you're talking about static, it's facilities people or real estate people, and people within different customers don't know each other. When we get into LEDs, we're dealing a little more with IT, but really haven't seen the evolution yet, which is something I'm trying to push. The person controlling the digital signage on the inside is generally a different person from the person controlling the digital signage on the outside, and that's software, hardware, content, a little bit of everything. And that's me and Triangle Sign. Grant.
All right, Jeff, thank you. Grant Wylie, Senior Product Manager for LED products here at NEC Display Solutions of America. My role is to grow that business, pretty simply. NEC, everybody doesn't really know. I think everybody should know right now. We are really a manufacturer of just about any type of video product that you can think of, whether that's a projector, flat panel display, monitor, and into now flat or LED products as well. Been selling them for about 5 years, and mostly outdoor products. Now we really are moving into more of an indoor product. Can you go to the next slide for me, Rich? So we do have several outdoor installations, mostly in Europe. Moving forward, we are focused quite heavily on the ultra-fine pitch indoor LED products to provide a total solution for our customers regarding any type of signage that they would be looking for. Can you go to the next slide? So with that, we offer indoor and outdoor LED solutions from ultra-fine pitch up to standard pitch indoor, and we're launching high bright outdoor LED as well. So that's me for the moment.
All right, perfect. And I'm Rich Ventura. Once again, I'm Vice President of Business Development and Solutions at NEC. So we're going to get into talk a bit about trends and things that we're seeing within the industry. And Randy, I think I'm going to throw it to you first. And what are the trends that you're seeing with LED pixel pitches?
Thanks, Rich. What we're seeing is, again, as I said, our business really took off at sub 4 millimeter, higher resolution pixel pitch. So not a show goes by where you don't see the new higher resolution, lower dot pitch. Shipping today is 1.2 millimeter by some vendors, and we've actually built a couple of mounts of 0.95 mil, and there's back rooms of 0.8, and I've heard 0.6. So the biggest single trend you're seeing is an increase in resolution, which is opening up to more mainstream applications, therefore. And because of that, again, I think we're seeing anyway more curved, tilted. And when I say architecturally integrated, like today, we're working on 3 or 4 projects that LED is painscaping the ceiling of a lobby. And a few years back ago, that probably wouldn't have been an application for it. We're also seeing, as a general trend, architects and content creators are having a lot of fun with direct view LED. That would kind of be the trends that we're seeing, and obviously from an RP visual standpoint, it's a significant portion of our business as a result.
Okay, great. Jeff, what are you seeing from being in a traditional sign company? There's obviously some trends that are going on in terms of LED. What are you seeing?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I mean, the biggest part that we're seeing from LED is really coming from shopping centers. It's coming from churches, schools, local businesses. We're seeing more activity in the LED space locally than we are nationally, of course. When you go into an outlet mall, you may see it on the pylon, but you're not going to see it in front of the stores. We're putting the sign on the front of Gap, but we're not putting the sign, a digital sign or an LED sign in most cases on any of the stores. Some flagship locations, but for the most part, it's been the local businesses, the local small companies that are really jumping on LED and putting a message out there to bring people into their place of business or place of worship, whatever it may be. One of the big challenges I think that I'm seeing is people think of digital signage and very familiar with digital signage, but they are, from a content perspective, not used to putting it out on a sign by the road. So the message that you put on a sign by the road is, of course, got to be very different because cars are flying by at 25 to 65 mile an hour. And so it's very different from what I would think of in a traditional digital signage environment where you can put lines of text or full motion video or anything else that people are standing and watching. So it's a different model from content, but that also comes back into the pitch, and how many what size screen you have is based on the speed limit of the street going by, right?
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. So Grant, obviously, being a display provider, and we're supplying LCDs, projectors, and now LED. When do I make that decision to buy an LED over an LCD video wall or doing large-scale projection?
There's several minor reasons we go with LED, direct view LED over an LCD or flat panel display or projector. One, lifespan. You're going to get a longer lifespan out of the LED. It's usually a brighter product, so you're going to get a little bit more punch to it. You can go with the larger sizes quite easily without having bezels between. So you don't have the interruption in the content. Typically, think about it, boardrooms, that kind of stuff, where somebody wants to show a PowerPoint slide or an Excel spreadsheet, and they don't want to have the parts of the presentation broken up by lines from, say, an LCD video wall. Well, the LED can actually pose or serve as a really good substitute for that. When it comes to digital signage, I think the biggest thing right now would be the wow factor that you get from the LED, and that's really because it has that that direct view emissive brightness of the product. It enable it to provide a very bright and dynamic presentation and command somebody's eye, so that when somebody, when you have a content playing on there, you want to have an advertisement that draws people's attention. You can do that very easily with the LED compared to an LCD or a projector. Another reason could be the particular space you want to put it into. Projection really requires a specific set of location for being able to either do rear projection or have location in front of the display or the screen surface itself, without the screen or the image being interrupted by people walking by, that kind of stuff. So many different factors. And then the last thing really is budget-wise. Do you have the money to budget for LED versus LCD or projector? Obviously it is a premium product, and it will command a little bit more of a premium price tag. So that's the last factor, I would say, that puts LED over LCD and projection.
Okay, great. Well, I think one of the things that I'm always curious about when we look at different display technologies is the hardware is one thing, but what about the content? Are there new considerations that we need to think about with content? Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Well, as I mentioned, the content for outside and based on where your screen is located is very different from the content on the inside, and the dwell time is very different. If you have an outdoor LED sign at a stoplight, you obviously can do a lot more, but the content that we are seeing that works the best is one simple message, one word, 2 words, 2 lines of content, 2 lines of text, sorry, at the most. It really is limited from a standpoint of the traffic going by the sign, and it's very different from what I'm used to back in the digital signage area, but it's very similar to what you see in a static signage environment when you're looking at like a store sign. The less they have up there, the more concise the message, the better.
So Randy, you showed a picture. You were talking about the sports book in Las Vegas. And I look at content for something like that. There's obviously some challenges that you face with a wall that big. What things can you talk about when you're dealing with walls that are very large like that? What are the content restrictions that you face?
Well, from a content standpoint, with LED, it's a Legoland. And so it's just a dynamically reconfigurable display surface based on the processing up front. In the case of that casino I mentioned in Vegas, they actually have 12 Vista Spiders powering it. They could drive all 61 million pixels should they want. Can you resolve it? Can you actually view that? And if you've actually been to that casino, the content's good in, good out, bad in, bad out. And it's interesting because some of the feeds that the actual casino have are not great feeds, so hence the end viewing on the LED, doesn't matter what you display it on, isn't great. And some of the feeds are awesome. And probably the worst thing of that particular job, because it is quite a spectacular job, the worst thing is the old betting ticker. The technology is like 10 or 12 years old, and it's actually that ticker that causes the jitter, and they're addressing it and fixing it now. But a couple things with content. Content is king to the experience. Content/creators are who are going to make the wall dance or not dance. But basic human factors and legibility needs to be factored in. And the biggest single thing is, who needs to read what where. And to use that casino, the most important part of that wall is the betting line, which is down the right-hand side because it's for profit. So if they can read it better now than when they had projection, the book can make more money. They can read that part of the wall just great. So that's a content from a casino's perspective.
Okay. So Grant, with the finer pitch LEDs you mentioned earlier at indoor, what are those? What kind of applications are we really looking at for that? We're looking at a traditional 2x2 video wall, or what ways can people use finer pitch LED?
We're seeing a lot of requests for control rooms. So they're using them for, especially the ultra fine pitch. That's where they're looking for something where you can have high definition, high lines, being able to see small text and content. A lot of corporate applications, that would be boardrooms, some very similar content to control rooms. Even into the lobby spaces for hospitality environments, seen quite a bit of requests for that type of application, where in those applications really it's more of either providing an experience and or trying to provide commercials for different products within the facility. Public spaces, it's another thing. It could be sporting venues or convention centers where they're wanting to expand, and a lot of those spaces it's a refresh from LCD into an LED. Now that the LED prices have come down to a fairly close point to the LCD. And last is at retail. I think we've hit a lot of that on the content. There's retail is king, and that's what drives the ROI. If you can sell something on a board, it's gonna pay for it. So it's very important to be able to show the right content to the right person. As Jeff had mentioned, for outdoor, for roadside, it's very important to be able to show a message with somebody going by at 60 miles an hour. How do they get that and decipher that message, and then in turn actually turn around and buy the product? Well, it's got to be simple, it's got to be quick, and it's also got to be tailored based upon the viewing distance and the speed of the speed of the viewer, how fast they can buy it.
Okay. So Jeff, I'm going to throw this great curveball at you a little bit. You've got a client and they say I want an LED. How do you help them pick the right pixel pitch, whether it's indoor or outdoor?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that comes down to budget, right? What they can afford, and obviously the smaller the pitch, the more expensive. The way that we have helped the customer make the decision the best is by actually doing a demonstration. So mounting the LED on a trailer or a truck, putting it in the physical location where they want the screen to go. We find out all of the local zoning first, find out how close we can get to the road, do all of our homework there, what size screen they can have, but then put that size screen in the spot and show them exactly what it's going to look like. And we've used different ways of doing it, but I've found on a trailer or a truck is the best way to put it in the spot, show them what a 12 or a 16 or a 20 or a 25, what it looks like in that spot, and they can step back, take a look at it, and say, okay, now I understand why I only need a 16, or now I understand why I need to have a 12, and can maybe make a screen smaller if they think they have to go 12, or expand their budget.
Okay. So Randy, how about at RPV? You get customers probably asking you, I want to do the impossible. You mentioned zip mounts and all this stuff. How do you help them really come to choose the right solution for their project?
Well, from two different questions. One, from a serviceability standpoint, how do they have to service the product based on what product they're going with? In the case of your lift product, it's front serviceable. In case of other products, you can either swing it, exit, louver it, but you got to get behind it for servicing it. Supplementing it from a resolution standpoint, we do provide consulting services for visual display acuity, and I would encourage all the participants on this to check out the display image size standard that just came out from Infocom. Infocom's published their second standards. And you'll actually see that what Jeff's saying is actually paralleled in there for public information viewing and oversizing characters 30 degree of arc minute. The interesting thing is we don't tend to play on that world in the outdoor signage. We tend to play on the visual inspection. So we're more down at 10 arc minute visual display acuity, and that's for control rooms and medical imaging and processing like that. But going back, you need to know who needs to read what where, closest viewer, furthest viewer, most preferred viewer, least favored viewer. Don't let the technology dictate it. There's some basic math rules you can do, and again, these are in that standard from Infocom. But if you take 3438 divided by the vertical pixels of a display times the screen height of the display, that'll tell you where you cannot see resolution anymore. Stated a different way, why buy 1.5 mil if your closest viewer is 30 feet away? And then I also do agree with Jeff that once the math gets you close, you then want to look at the dot pitches on either the low and the high side, budget permitting, and prototyping it and setting it up. And so we like to be involved in facilitating that experience.
Okay. So Grant, I mean, from NEC's perspective, what tools or what ways are we helping customers, really pick the right solution for their project?
So Randy really hit it on the head as far as the viewing acuity, or the arc minute of what the human eye is capable of actually seeing, which I believe is down to about 2 arc, or it's actually 2 arc minutes is about what the visual acuity of a human eye is. So if you translate that out, it equates to about 2.5 meters to every millimeter of viewing distance, or I'm sorry, every millimeter of pixel pitch is about 2.5 meters of viewing distance. Well, that would be what we would call retina display, or some others would call a retina display. It's not necessarily what you actually have to have. So what we've said is, in that range down to almost 1 meter for every millimeter of pixel pitch gives you an acceptable viewing distance or an acceptable image, down to that 2.5 meter distance for every millimeter. So what range within that is, do you want to pay for? If you go with the 1 meter for every millimeter of pixel pitch, you're going to have a little bit more of a pixelated display, but it's still acceptable. If you want to go out to the 2.5 millimeter or 2.5 meter distance for every millimeter, you're going to have a lot tighter pixel pitch, like Randy had talked about, a 1.5, where your viewing distance is anywhere between 50 and 30 feet. You might not need it. You could go to a 2.5 millimeter display, and the visual quality of the display would still be as good. So it's all about consulting, talking to the customer, understanding what their budget is, how much do they want to pay for. A lot of times what we're seeing is customers they want to have a sign that's better than their competitor. They want it to look better than somebody else's, and so it's a race to the finest pixel pitch, but it's not necessarily needed.
All right. So Randy, you mentioned something a minute when you were talking serviceability. This is paramount for something like this. What are some gotchas or some things that you recommend people watching for, thinking about from a serviceability standpoint?
Well, from a serviceability standpoint, the first thing I would say is the whole world of LED is a new adventure right now. There's a lot of vendors, and if you have ever been to Guangzhou, there's hundreds this week, and there's new hundreds next week. And you have a lot of product coming over to North America right now. What we're finding is the consistency of the product from a mechanical design and validation to the dimensions tends to be better with the big name companies that are representing and selling LED, and less consistent with the no name. So first and foremost, who are you dealing with? Product has to validate. Second of all, from a serviceability standpoint, define the product in terms of is rear service required or a front service. And even if front service is required, you still want to take the building structure out of it. You're trying to deliver a sub-millimeter seam for service, the biggest single thing that's key on an LED wall. And if you see enough of them out there, if the Z-axis is off, if the forward to back axis is off, the wall looks mechanically bad. So it's really key that you have the ability to line the tiles up. And a lot of mounting solutions inherent from LED manufacturers allows for that for a certain size array and in a flat deployment. Once the wall gets big, tolerances of the panels come into play, and once the wall gets curved, tilted, or Legoland, it becomes more of a challenge. But serviceability is key from a mechanical mount design. And then you also want, a third thing you want to consider, though, is longevity of the product and keeping the spares on hand to take vendor concerns in the future out so that you can be self-sufficient. That would be the 3 comments I would make that we're experiencing.
Okay. So Jeff, being that you guys are an installer and a servicer, and what are the things that you look for from LED technology to really make your life easier?
I think Randy captured most of that. We're not only installing it and servicing, but we're selling it as well. And so for us, we want to have a product that is going to uphold our name. Is not going to kill us on a lot of warranty calls or any of those things. But the the most important part, of course, is responsiveness. And it's really, for us, it's in the company that we're dealing with. And you know, as far as the structure and everything else, we're building that, so we can, of course, make it ourselves so it's all accessible. But for us, it's responsiveness of the company that we're dealing with.
Okay, and, you know, and tied to that, I mean, what, how do you guys recommend servicing and maintaining LED walls? Is it a monthly checkup on a wall, or do you go in once a year? I mean, what do you recommend when it comes to maintaining and servicing walls?
You know, very similar to digital signage. You know, there hasn't been a big need for maintenance programs, if you will. You know, that's common in other products, but in digital signage and LED, there hasn't been a real big need to have a maintenance program or, you know, a maintenance contract. The life of the screen itself is very good. The warranties are normally very good. You know, it's been pretty trouble-free for us.
Okay.
If that answers your question or not, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you know, you did. I mean, and that's the key thing. I mean, it's one of the things I think everyone is really concerned about is just how sensitive is this product. I mean, we're putting this stuff outside. You know, we're putting them inside. It's making sure that they're making this big of an investment. That it's an investment that's going to last for a long period of time. Okay, agreed. So Grant, I mean, even tied with that, I know we talk a lot about the fine pitch indoor, and it's a lot more sensitive than the outdoor. One of the questions that actually was sent over to me was, how do you clean them? You actually clean the front of them like you do with an LCD, or do you just not touch them? What do we do?
The easiest way to clean, especially like an ultra fine pitch, would be with a very fine bristle brush. So almost like a horsehair bristle brush, where all you're doing is knocking the dust off of the surface. You want to be very gentle. If you think about like a 1.5 millimeter display, it's using a 1 millimeter LED, and that's, you know, an SMD. It's got a red, blue, and a green LED within that 1 millimeter, you know, square space, and each one of those is tied to the PCB board. So it's 6 very, very tiny connections in 1 millimeter space that, you know, soldered on. The utmost care and diligence to prevent knocking those LEDs loose is paramount. So when it comes to cleaning, you have to be very delicate. But the larger displays, I mean, when it gets up to the outdoor, I mean, it can be pretty much power wash for the most part, as long as you're not putting the nozzle right up and blowing through.
Okay.
I think Jeff agrees with that one.
Yeah.
Jeff's up there with his power brush every time, right, Jeff?
Power wash, definitely.
That project we did in New York, if I could supplement with that, the project we did in New York, a typical construction site, there was actually, we came in and put the cabinets in and then went away, and then when they had live signal came back, and there was actually pebbles and concrete from where they had drilled the ceiling all over the product. And we ended up using a fine brush vacuum. But it is kind of funny, you know, the problem in the AV industry in general. It doesn't matter if it's LED or flat panel LCD or projectors. We're always the last trade in, and everybody's deadline slips but ours. And of course, the electronics have to be secured, so that's always the fun indoor battle.
Definitely.
And, you know, and Jeff, you know, Randy going with you know, the serviceability and stuff. With more and more product coming front service mountable, do we really need mounts? I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, is it more of just doing truss on the walls and hanging them, or are mounting solutions still important?
Are you asking me, sorry?
Yes, Randy. Sorry. Yeah, Randy.
Well, here's my opinion on front surface mounts. First of all, what are you attaching to? If you're attaching it to wood, what's wood going to do with temperature and humidity changes over the life cycle of the product? Are you attaching it to unistrut, aluminum? Is that stable enough? Are you attaching it to steel? My opinion on front surface mounts is going to play really well in the smaller arrays, ABC, auditorium, boardroom, classroom type deployments, maybe up to 150-inch diagonal, maybe larger with a skilled install team, but you have to also consider the stability of that. We still, for any certain size array, recommend that you just take the building out of it. And what I mean by that is that we do all with NEC. We do the Microsoft stores with flat panels. And when we first developed that front surface for flat panel swing mounts, our mount had a full inch of X, Y, and Z adjust. And we did the very first store, and we didn't have enough Z. And so we ended up coming with a whole new system where they have 1 inch plus 2 inches of gross backer frame adjust. And over the length of a store, being 70, 80 foot, some general contractors can hold 3 inches of tolerance. So our opinion on front surface mounts with LED is to take the building out of it, put in something between the building that makes us accountable and responsible for delivering a 10% of the dot pitch seam. But I think FSA mounts are going to really help deploy LED more. And so like a funnel effect, you're going to see direct view LED more so in boardroom, classrooms, deployments like that, which are going to drive more big, curved, large, and architecturally integrated ones.
Okay. So Jeff, with as coming from a sign company, and I think one of the things that we've always seen, and we've all attended ISA over the years, and we see the heavy focus. We see LEDs everywhere. Are we finally getting to that point where we're seeing the tipping point where we're starting to see the sign industry move more towards doing digital because of LED, or is it still kind of waiting?
I would say we're still kind of waiting. I think we're in the middle of the evolution. We're seeing it more for flagship-like locations, but for the most part, it's as I said, it's in the local small businesses, and they're using anything they can to bring somebody into their establishment. I hope to see it evolve more into the mass market or the retail channel. But even when you talk convenience store, you think of your local convenience store, they might have digital signage on the inside, and then they have the gas pumps outside. They have the sign. They may have an EMC, an electronic message center, on the outside somewhere saying something, but the message itself is controlled by 2 different people. It's controlled by 2 different pieces of software. The transition, the crossover between inside and outside hasn't happened, and I think that's what's necessary for us to see more messaging on the outside, down the road. And I don't think it's there yet, but I think it's going to get there. As more and more retailers are looking at different ways to bring people in, it's great when you have a strong content and message on the inside, but you have to get people into your store. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think people are going to get a little more creative on bringing people into the store rather than just putting the name of their store on the outside of the building.
Okay, great. So Grant, if I'm an integrator and I want to enter into selling LEDs, what are some things that I need to think about in order to really do it properly?
It's funny you ask me that, because actually I think that would be a great question for Jeff, because he is that integrator and he would be able to really express what that means. But from my standpoint, and from somebody that would be integrating my product, really it's somebody that understands the delicate nature of the product, somebody that is willing and able to go out and be able to service the product afterwards, keep the customer happy, and then have the right accessibility to be able to install the display. Most of these products aren't at eye level. They're up high. You need the structure to be able to put it together, and then a little bit of that is expertise. Have you done it in the past? Obviously, everybody has to learn and have a first time, but it's a growing pain. So once you've done one of them, you learn from there and grow.
Yeah. And of course, Jeff, I was going to go back to you and see what your thoughts were as well. But what are some things that you coming from being an integrator sign company?
Yeah.
What are some things that you would say or share?
I would go down the path the same way I would with regular digital signage, and that as an integrator, you want to make sure you have the right partners with you. Don't expect to do it all yourself. If you're looking for a company like Triangle to actually do the install, maybe fabrication of those things, then make sure it's a company that's going to stand behind their product and that they're going to take care of any issues out there for you. The content, the software, everything is the same as standard digital signage. You know, in our world, it's it's more about zoning and permits and what they're actually allowed to put on the outside of the building. So getting the right partners to me is key.
Okay. All right. So Jeff, let's look at where the business is coming from in the LED space. Who or how is the business actually being developed for LED?
I'm sorry, say that last part again?
I meant that for Randy. I'm sorry, Randy. The business itself, where is it coming from?
Well, right now, and kind of piggybacking onto your last question, from an integrator standpoint right now, LED is still infrastructure at this point, so it's still early, it's still up front. So consultants are driving the majority of the LED deployments we're seeing right now, audiovisual consultants, infrastructure consultants. So probably, half of our business right now for the world of direct LED is coming from AV consultants. And granted, our orders are coming through dealers. We don't sell direct, so the dealers are bidding on the projects, winning the projects. So half the business is coming from there. 20 to 30% of the business is, we're finding, coming from creators. Experiential people, people that can paint pictures. You can call them content, but they're usually a little bit more than that. And so that they're these creative guys that are coming up with these paintscaping ideas of surrounding with technology. The third thing from an integrator standpoint, business is just good relationships with good manufacturers that are going to educate customers to the market, like you're doing here, and teaching them about it. That's where the business is coming from, where the business is going right now in direct LED. We're seeing the most amount in retail. And the flagship guys are all deploying now, right? So Microsoft is using direct LED on their outdoor signage. It's indoor, but it's facing outdoor. Burberry has now transitioned to doing direct LED. The project up north, and Apple's getting a lot of press. I'm not sure whose LED that is, but it's getting a lot of press. Casinos have been using direct LED for 3 or 4 years now. McCann Systems has done at least a half dozen jobs in Vegas with direct LED that dates back 3 or 4 years. Digital signage and lobby displays, and again, that traditionally transitions more over to AV consultants. Auditorium, boardroom, conference room, classroom type applications, that's where you're going to see most dealer integrators driving business there. That's their channel that they currently have and can bring most value to. In control rooms, there's 5 or 6 integrators in the country that specialize in control rooms, and I would think almost all of them already have done at least one direct LED job, and you're going to see that grow and grow, as Grant was saying, due to longevity of the technology and pixel pitch.
Okay. All right. So Grant, let's kind of do our crystal ball here. And where do we see LED technology, 1, 3, and 5 years from now?
I think we're going to keep seeing a reduction in pixel pitch beyond, or to where the average or the mean is below the 2 millimeter for the indoor products. With outdoor, I don't know that we're going to see a whole lot of reduction in pixel pitch below that, where it is currently, because it's all about viewing distance. With the indoor, as I said earlier, it's all about who can have the better display. Also, the chip-on-board technology, that might be something that we're going to see in 3 to 5 years as an ability to decrease the pixel pitch beyond where we're seeing it right now. So as Randy had talked about earlier, we're seeing displays now, specialized displays that are at that 0.75 or 0.93 pixel pitch. With the chip-on-board capability, we can go much tighter than that, and we saw some of that at Infocom. Right now, it's price prohibitive, but as technology evolves and manufacturing processes are created, that drives those costs down. So I think that will be one area that we're going to start seeing for indoor. Ultimately, it's a cost reduction. I think we're seeing a cost reduction year over year. It's pretty substantial, and I'd say within 5 years, we're going to be at pretty close to the same price point for, let's say, a 1.5 millimeter down to this. It'll be comparable to the price of an LCD video wall of very much the same size.
So Jeff, I mean, what are you guys hoping to see in the next 1 to 3, 5 years out there for your business that's going to help your business grow?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more on the pylons and monuments. So the shopping centers, the churches, the schools. We're going to continue to see that, which has been very strong for us. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the retail space. So the individual stores, they're going to have the pylon's going to have an LED screen that's going to have their name. Are they going to go to the point of putting it, on the roof line or on the front of the store? And I can't answer that at this point, but I can see that it's going to happen when the prices drop low enough. We may become more of an LED company than a aluminum, plastic, and painting company.
Okay. So Randy, you and I both have been around Infocom for many years, and we've seen a lot of the changes. I mean, what do you foresee happening over the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I always thought I would be able to retire before you could buy displays like carpet. That was the plan, anyway. I think digital carpet's a reality. I think that within the next 10 years, displays are going to be purchased very much like carpet in sense of pixel density, and you're going to see an increase in brightness, resolution, and thinner, which I guess will hopefully end up me being the best digital carpet layer. Because part of it's the product, right? Part of it's the product, part of it's the mounting solution, part of it's the processing, and at the end of the day, part of it's executing it and doing it right and making sure that all those components seamlessly look good up on the wall. If any one of them are deficient, then they all look poor. I don't know where it goes technically. I'm not smart enough. I keep getting told. I remember when you guys used to say thin bezel panels from NEC will never be less than 3.9 millimeters. I remember when they were 5.5 millimeters. I know they're 1.9 millimeters now. So you don't know. And I got told a year ago that direct view LED with the current stuffing technology, 0.95, 0.93 would be about the end, but now I'm hearing 0.8, and I just think you're going to see increased resolutions, and then how that impacts our business, it's just going to become tougher to mount because the separation is tougher to mount. So.
Okay. Well, so we're about the end here. I was going to leave to each one of you if you want to make a couple statements. And Grant, if there's anything you want to kind of share, statements, thoughts, some lessons learned, or anything like that for the audience.
The biggest thing I would want to put out to the audience is when you're considering putting the LED signage, and this is primarily for indoor applications, don't necessarily go off of what you think the resolution should be. But actually, do a study. Do a little bit about what Jeff talked about. If you need it, have somebody come in and do a demonstration of different pixel pitch at the distances that you're looking at. See what works best for you and works best for your budget. Just don't go off of, well, they had a 1.5 or somebody else had a 1.2, so that's what I want. It's not necessary. You're going to be spending a lot of extra money that you don't necessarily spend unless your business is that 5 to 6 foot range. So that's the last thing I would say.
Okay. Jeff, how about yourself?
I'm gonna jump right on Grant's tail there and agree with him. The key for me in outdoor digital signage is doing a demonstration. Take a look at what you're actually trying to do. See what it's going to look like from where you think people are going to look at it, and you're always going to want to go to the best that you can afford. So, if today you're thinking 20 is okay, go to 16. If you think 16 is okay, go to 12, go to 10. What people can afford today is probably not what they're going to want tomorrow. And every group that I've met with, whether it be a church or individual business owners, the screens are going to last for a long time, but your needs are going to change. So don't be afraid to spend a little bit more, because this isn't going to be a one-year investment. It's going to be something that lasts for a long time.
Okay. Randy, closing remarks from you.
Couple of takeaways for those integrators on the phone on the conference that are wanting to learn about the business. That's really good. Knowledge equals margin. And if you know more than the other people know, both in terms of the product and the solutions capable, you can better service your customers. For end users or technology decision makers on the call, knowledge equals a better result. I wouldn't look at it as always saving money. Time, margin, and competency is one consistency in the business. You got to have the time to do it right. You got to have the margin to do it right. You got to have the competency to do it right. So you want to make sure you have those key vendors that are going to support you, back you. And in the LED jungle land, my biggest, I don't sell electronics, but my biggest piece of advice would be to deal with those who you know, the names you recognize, the people that are committing the resources, service support, and warranty and branding behind that are very key to a long, happy customer. One good customer equals a lot more business. One bad costs us all business. I hate seeing bad jobs. I like to see good work, whether we do it or not. So.
Well, I want to thank Randy, Jeff, and Grant for spending time, and then all of you for spending time listening to this. This is Rich Ventura. I'm the Vice President of Biz Dev at NEC. And if you want more information about any of our products, you have access to our websites at RP Visual, Triangle Signs, and necdisplay.com. And this will also be uploaded on our YouTube page. Thank you, and have a great day.